Good evening, everyone. Welcome to week 6 here in CE 155. Chef Eric and I welcome you to another fine and final live session for this block. And it's also our final live session for 2018. And it's also Chef Eric and I's final block together. And I'm going to miss Chef Eric. He's been a truly professional companion in this course, and I really have enjoyed working with him. And so it's been an absolute pleasure, and hopefully we get to cross paths again real soon.
Oh, I'm sure we will, Chef. It's been a pleasure working with you as well as the rest of everybody that is here and not here. It's been a fun 6 weeks. Hopefully you guys have learned as much about, developing and designing that kitchen as well as that front of the house as much as I have, right? It's an ongoing learning experience. So hope you all have enjoyed it. And remember, those are there for you to use on a regular basis. So have fun, play around with it. I still do. I enjoy it. I'm thinking about using that spreadsheet myself to design a food truck, because I've been kind of playing around in some food trucks this past last weekend. And then this upcoming weekend, I have a buddy. He's like, yeah, if you got time, come ahead. I don't care. Work whenever you want. And I said, all right, sounds good.
Absolutely, absolutely. And this class has done fantastic. I know Chef Eric and I are both proud of all of you. And it's as a chef educator, speaking for both of us, I can honestly say that when you see students progress and learn and conceive ideas, that's where the actual payday is. And that's what makes it worth it for all of us. So thank you, everybody, for all your hard work and effort over the past 6 weeks, and well-deserved. And like Chef Eric was saying, make sure you continue to hone your skills, especially in this department. Chef Eric was saying it's years down the road since he did his, and he's still using his design tools. It's a skill that's developed and develops over time. And the more you use it, the more it develops. So definitely continue to utilize these skills. They're going to come in beneficial to you down the road. Absolutely. Chef Eric, when are the assignments due this week?
Sunday.
Would that be Sunday, December the 16th?
p.m. Central Standard Time, December 16th. That's when everything is due. No ifs, ands, or but. You got makeup assignments, get those turned in now. Not tomorrow, today. Right?
So what's going to happen if somebody sends you an assignment on Monday, December 17th?
I'm going to say sorry, but I can't accept that. Got to make sure that we're paying attention to that time management, right? Time management is huge in our industry, right, Chef? You got to keep on going.
Yep. So Sunday, December the 16th by 11:59 p.m., make sure that you have all of your assignments to Chef Eric for him to work with. It's critical. We have an 8 o'clock tea time on Monday, so it's out of the question.
And that's not golf, folks. That's literally tea.
Yeah, tea time, yeah. Tea time for the meeting. So please make sure that you stick to that. We want to make sure that everybody gets through this course with their proper earned grade. Very, very important. Week 5, ladies and gentlemen, how did it go? What kind of feedback do we have?
Anyone? Ebony, what do you think?
I did pretty good. I missed a few things, and I went back and I removed that wall that you told me to remove. I did that, but I had a question about, it was something you was telling me that I missed, that I didn't know that I missed. So
there's questions, right? There's not only the actual flow chart that we need to do, but there's also making sure we reference that summary for our concept, as well as talk about that labor, right? Pertaining to your food and beverage costs. Is your labor going to, be able to work with this flow?
Okay, so that's off in the part where you go up under the...
It's in on the assignment submission page.
Okay. Because I was like, okay, what is he talking about? I didn't see no questions on this paper. Okay.
It's something really important what Chef Eric just touched upon. And in life, I don't think any of us are born with attention to detail, and it's kind of a learned skill. And a lot of us now are back in school, and so we're really honing those skills, so to speak. And especially once you get into industry, time management and attention to detail are one of the two most critical things that we work with on a regular basis. A banquet, I mean, if you're doing a banquet for 1,000 people and you forget to order X, Y, and Z, and it's time to plate and it's not there, you're done.
Sam's Club's your friend, though. I'll tell you that. Same thing with Costco.
That's right. So, you know, we learn, industry has a way of teaching you about attention to detail very quickly. So we really try to enforce that here in school. So before you get there, you get it done.
Yeah, Chef, I wanted to quickly share and show what I was talking about when it comes down to those questions, because Ebony, you weren't the only one that missed that. So let's make sure that we get this part covered, right? So will your labor projections from food and beverage cost control work with this design, and explain why, right? That part of this assignment's worth 10%, just as much as, so see these two bottom parts pertain to that grading rubric. The explanation, 10%. 10% goes to that concise summary of your concept. So don't forget those two things, right? Because that'll take that grade from that A to a B very quickly if you forget those, okay? So make sure that we come back to this page on a consistent. What I like to do personally when I was a student was keep this assignment submission page open whenever I did assignments, period, whether it was my practical class or my core class. So that way I always had this sit next to my actual assignment that I had to do, whether it was my narrative or a document or a slideshow presentation. Always have that assignment submission page open for your convenience, okay?
Absolutely, yeah. And then, you know, I'm actually in college now, and I'm getting in the process of pursuing another degree. And before I submit anything to my professors, I have that rubric up on my screen, and I make sure that I've hit every single detail before I hit submit. And I actually check it off to ensure, because I'm not the sharpest tool in the shed and I forget. And it took me a while to learn that. It's kind of like reading directions, Chef Eric. You know, when I was younger, I used to you know, I could do it myself. Now that I'm older and I work smarter, I read directions. And so it's a it's a good skill to start developing now. So when you get into industry, it's a lot easier that way. Yeah. What did everybody think about the flow? Yeah. Did you notice a lot of good flow, good organization, Chef Eric?
I did definitely notice the flow part was pretty much what everybody seemed to get, right, and kind of understand, to where there wasn't too many bottlenecks, wasn't too many crossing of paths when they're creating these dishes. I did reference maybe some moving of some pieces of equipment to better streamline some people's kitchen in order to make sure that flow was very efficient. You know, like you've been always saying, you know, those steps are money, right? You know, the more steps you got to take, you're paying that chef to go ahead and take those steps. You know, if you got to have them walk clear across the room from your walk-in cooler all the way to the other side of your kitchen in order to wash your produce, that's not going to be very efficient, right? So really make sure that you're having things arranged accordingly and thinking about those different steps that it takes to create your menu.
Mm-hmm. Yep, absolutely. Those are great comments. Absolutely. Absolutely. So it looks like everybody did a great job on week 5, and there's been a lot of good progression. And I think hopefully all of you are thinking a lot deeper now about the actual design and layout of facilities. And it's not just an oven because it fits well there. That oven has a certain designated responsibility and it's put there for a purpose. And so if you can continue to plan, organize, create, and then decide where to put your equipment, you're going to be successful in this industry. So just make sure you think it through. Remember the cost that's associated with having to relocate equipment, move things around. It's a very expensive maneuver. We relocated a convection oven at my prior facility. We moved it about 20 feet. It was close to $1,000 to move it. Even though it was on a quick disconnect, we had to have a plumber come in to replumb the gas lines. We had to have the Ansel system, which is now a Halo system, relocated. And so there's a lot of things that go involved, you know, and electricity has to be moved. And inside restaurants, we can't just call Uncle Fred, who's a good electrician, to come down and hook us up, you know, with a favor on a Saturday afternoon. It has to be done by a professional for liability purposes. And so that's very, very important to remember.
Does everybody know what Chef's talking about when he talks about an Ansel system? You know, it's very similar to that. You know, it connects up there with your hoods, right? It's going to be above all your equipment, especially your hot equipment, right? In case of grease fires, things like that, you got to have something that's going to put that stuff out, so that way you don't burn down your entire building, right? Mm-hmm. So it's basically like these nice little plumbing pipes that come down, and they have a little spout on them that whatever you do, I implore you to never break any piece of mercury when it comes down to your sprinkler systems inside your kitchen, okay? Because everything goes off, and I mean everything. And that stuff's not fun to clean up. It's, water that's been sitting in there for ages. Your Ansel system is made up of all kinds of gross chemicals that are sticky and just, it's not fun.
And until you've sat in the middle of it, you really haven't lived. We had it. Ansel systems are set off by clips, and the clips are up inside the hood system, and those clips are designed to melt at certain temperatures, and that's how it signifies that there's a fire. And we opened up a Fairmont Hotel, which was a 5-diamond resort, very fancy, but and we had an open kitchen, and in the open kitchen they installed the wrong clips. The clips are set according to temperatures, and it was a 250-degree clip that was directly underneath a pizza oven burning at 800 degrees. And so they had loaded the dining room. The place was packed. We're rocking on the line, and next thing you know, it's like a winter wonderland in there. So it happens. Ansel systems, you're probably not going to see them too much longer. They're now outlawed. So the new systems are called Halo, because the Ansel systems were discovered to have cancer-causing agents in laboratory animals. Yeah, I'd rather go through that than, be burned to death. So it's good. So you will see it's the same style of system, but they've changed that just a little bit. But fires inside restaurants are a major concern. You're working with a lot of very hot grease, a lot of flames, everything else. So it's a very critical situation to pay attention to. Ladies and gentlemen, Chef Eric, did you mention when the assignments are due?
Yes, sir.
That was
Sunday, December 16th, 11:59 p.m. This Sunday.
Can they turn it in Monday?
No.
Ain't gonna happen, right?
No.
Tea time, right?
Yeah.
So make sure. Can they submit makeup assignments late?
Oh, no assignments late. Everything needs to be turned in. No ifs, ands, or buts around it, right?
Sunday, December the 16th, everyone, by 11:59 p.m. Central Standard Time. Make sure your assignments are submitted and in Chef Eric's hot hands. They got to be rocking and rolling. Ladies and gents, this week, make sure that you take our end of course survey located at the top of the page. Chef Eric, myself, and all of Escoffier utilize that information to improve ourselves. We're not looking for, I didn't like Chef Warren's hair. We're looking on ways that we can improve the program and make it a better experience for all of the students. So once you get into industry, initially when I got into industry and somebody would say something about my food or said something about one of my restaurants, I'd let them know exactly where they stood. And it took me a little while to realize that, hey, maybe I could take that information and make myself better. So that's the way we treat the information, and it's a good lesson for all of you to learn as well for when you get into industry, because people are going to make comments about your food. You need to have a tough stomach and just look at the reality of it. Right?
As you guys know, this is very incognito. We don't have the faintest idea who says what kind of circumstance. So make sure that you are being constructive about your criticism as well. Keep an open mind. If there's anything that you have personal concerns, definitely reach out to us and let's handle it in a professional manner.
I'm stressed out about Latasha because I think she might sell us up the road because of her name, because we were saying it wrong at the beginning. You wouldn't do that?
I wouldn't do that.
No, that's why we made the cards this week, the flashcards.
You redeemed yourself, so you say.
We wanted to make it right. Yeah. And let's take a look at this week's class page to find out where we're at, to make sure that we are all on the same page as we wrap up CE 155 here. This is the end of course survey. This is located at the top of the class page. And then as we scroll down, Who knows where Santa Claus was invented? Anybody know? The modern day Santa Claus, where does he come from? Huh? This is a vital piece of information that makes America so great.
North Pole.
North Pole. No, that's where his predecessor, Nick, was from. The modern day Santa Claus was invented at the same place that we produce these videos, Tucson, Arizona, at the Westward Look. He was developed during the 1930s by a group of advertising and marketing specialists that had gathered for a Coca-Cola seminar, and they worked for the Coca-Cola company, and they needed to come up with a way to sell more Coca-Cola. So they drew up this Santa Claus with a beard, kind of chubby, in a red suit, created the reindeers and all that other kind of good stuff, and that's where the story began. It is an actual marketing campaign developed by the Coca-Cola Corporation right here in Tucson, Arizona.
Look at the colors, guys. Red, white, right?
See that? See that? And I'm kind of going Santa Claus, myself here. Once the beard comes in, I'll be right there. But that is a true story, and I wanted to point that out because there's two great things that have come out of Tucson, Arizona. One would be these videos that are produced right here, and Santa Claus. Not to mention that we are only the UNESCO World Heritage Gastronomy City in the United States, and we're currently representing the United States in Beijing, China at a UNESCO World Heritage Gastronomy event. So that's kind of cool. Right up here, you'll notice it says all assignments are due Sunday of this week. I don't think we mentioned that yet, but just in case you didn't hear it, Sunday, December the 16th, 11:59 p.m. Research materials, you're going to refer back to the prior 5 weeks for any questions that you may have. Thank you very much for your attendance at the live session. And if you're not, make sure that you watch the live session archive, but you wouldn't know that because you're not here. And then week 6, we're going to be putting it all together. This is where we kind of make justifications about everything, and we're going to get into that here in the next few minutes, which is a cool assignment. Just taking a look at the past couple of weeks. Week 1, everybody. Does everybody remember what we did? Anyone?
Bueller.
Bueller?
Bueller. Are you here? Bueller.
Week 1, we took, we created an equipment.
Hold up. Morning, Jeff.
Yo. Hello.
Latasha, go for it.
Latasha,
We put our menu and equipment items on the spreadsheet, right? The first week.
you're a rock star. You know that? That's awesome.
I try.
Yep. Yep. Ebony's up there going, yep, she is. Yep. Yeah, we did the equipment list and the station setup in week 1. We took a couple of different menu items. We broke it out into the mise en place. We decided what equipment we were going to need, and then we decided what station it was going to be on. So make sure you remember that for this week's assignment. And also continue to stay focused on that throughout your career. When you write your menus, make sure that it is delegated portions of each menu to each station. You don't want one guy in your kitchen to go down from cardiac arrest because of exhaustion while you have another guy that's asleep in the corner on the grill. You want to make sure that you spread it out. In a restaurant, you have to understand that 80% of the sales are generated by 16% of the menu items. So that 16% of the menu items needs to be delegated appropriately to all the stations so you spread the work out evenly. It's like having a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. You don't want one big clump of peanut butter. You want to make sure it's spread on the bread. Important. Week 2. Ebony, you remember what we did in week 2?
Mm-hmm.
Perfect. What did we do?
We did the front of the house.
Very close. Yeah.
Wait a
Well,
minute, it's the back of the house.
no. Ebony, let me save you on this one. When she says front of the house, when she says front of the house, she's talking about the very front of the house, as in from the street, because we talked about our food business location during week 2. Does everyone remember that? All the vital aspects about establishing our target market, how important that is to identify our customers, to identify our concepts so we would know where to put our restaurant. We also talked about a lot of the lease information, what it costs to lease out a restaurant, what it costs to build a restaurant. So we covered a lot of that vital information.
Mm-hmm.
Week 3, Ebony? Exactly. We did front of the house.
In the front of the house.
There you go.
Stuck for a minute.
Good job. Got it. But what were some of the important things that we learned when we did the front of the house? Latasha, you remember anything important that you learned from that?
I'm not a designer.
All right, I'll take it. I'll take it.
I like it. I like it.
Hey, you can't get better until you admit the fault.
I mean, that's hard for me. I have to like be in it, and I can visualize where I want stuff. I can't do it on Blueprint.
Mm-hmm.
But it
You know
was,
what?
it was really interesting.
We were talking about that in my prior class. I'm glad you brought that up. Because some of us can read a book and just be like a rock star and run with it. And then there are those of us that have to learn visually, right? We actually have to see it. And I'm one of those people.
In the room. I'm in the room. I can be like, oh, I want that right there. I want that right there.
My wife actually complains to me way too many times that I move things around in our living room.
Yeah. It's true that there's a lot of people find success through visual stimulation, where other people can read it in a book and just be, okay, got it.
Mhm.
So don't feel bad about that. But we learned a lot about operational flow in the front of the house, didn't we?
Right. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. We talked about the importance of where to put things, where to put furniture, how to group things together, entrance, exit to the kitchen, service stations, accessibility, hand washing sinks, all that kind of
Post station, the whole nine.
Yeah. What about week
Where the
4?
trash can was.
Yeah, where the trash can goes.
I didn't realize how important that was.
Yeah. It's amazing. Restaurants are not just things that are thrown together. Everything has to have a particular purpose and a reason for its being. Otherwise, it just creates a tremendous amount of inefficiency. What's that?
I was going to say, remember, guys, like back in your CE 125 course for your final, that customer service, right? That customer service slide y'all had to do. And to where it's like what we do on a design side of things when it comes down to customer service. It's like we take so many things for granted because we like to just go out and we go to eat. We're just walking in that door. We're like, all right, I got my reservation. All right, take me to my seat. We're not observing everything else that's really, that they have, those handrails for the handicap, right? So that way you can walk, be nice and comfortable. Like I've told you guys before, I think it was Red Robin, right? Has anybody been to a Red Robin that does not have a revolving door as their front entrance? Personally, I haven't. I've been to a ton. You've been to a Red Robin without a revolving door? Really?
Yes.
Where is that?
We have one in Jackson, about 45 minutes away from me, and they do not have a revolving door.
Oh, wow. I learned something new today.
But
I
the
always
food
thought,
is good.
think of what, I've gone to probably like 6-7 different Red Robins, and each one of them have had a revolving door. And I think that's pertaining to customer service, and that thoughtful design that I was talking about before, is that comes in with design, is to where they want people to be able to walk in that door, walk out it at ease, so those are types of things we take for granted when we go to a restaurant.
Yeah, it's amazing. And I mean, all these little details that go into the layout and design of a restaurant all add up to profitability and efficiency and success in the restaurant industry. We were just talking about menus a little while ago. The psychology that's involved in menus is just insane. That we don't sit down and just put items on a piece of paper and then give it to you. Every single location of a menu item is well thought out. We consider menus to be prime real estate, right? Does anybody have any idea how long the average person looks at a menu? Any guess?
10 minutes.
10
Well,
minutes?
I know me, it take me about 30 minutes.
The average customer, they actually did several Gallup polls regarding this, but the average customer will read your menu for 109 seconds. And that's how long it takes them to develop how much money they're going to spend at your restaurant and what they're going to spend it on. So menus have to be laid out extremely well. Where do your eyes first go? We deal with eye scanning on menus. Where do your eyes first go on a menu?
Dessert.
Dessert. I love you, Ebony. That's awesome, man. Yeah. Actually, the human eye has a natural tendency to go to the upper right-hand corner, and that's why you find the most expensive items up there, because generally you make your decision right off the bat. And so Everything has to be thought out extremely well in a restaurant. Week 4, everybody. What did we do?
The back of the house.
Back of the house. Atta girl. That's awesome. We did the kitchen layout. What did we learn from that?
That is hard.
That's hard? All right. Cool. I like
I
that.
didn't know that the kitchen has so many garbage cans.
Yeah, that's that. That's hey,
On
that's
every corner, they got a garbage can.
that's what this class is all about. That's critical stuff to know. Yeah. You know, I guarantee you, Ebony, when you walk into industry and you start cranking away in a restaurant, you're going to look at everything a little bit differently. You're going to say, you know what? If they would have thought this through, there would have been a garbage can next to my station, so I don't have to walk all the way to the dish area to throw away my scraps. Yeah. And then someday when you go to design your restaurant, you're going to be like, Chef Eric, man, he drove me crazy with my evals. That guy was right. You know? And everybody's smiling, but you know what? It's going to be true. It's going to happen. So we learned a lot about footsteps as well, didn't we? And how vital they are, how expensive they are. We learned that the average kitchen costs about $2.75 a square foot to construct. Huge money. So it is a very, very important investment when it comes to the restaurant industry. You know? So this week, what we're working on is we're going to name, I think it's 3 different things that you can do to make your concept more efficient. So what you have to do, this is a really important exercise because you have to sit back and you have to do a lot of self-examination here, right? You have to listen to Chef Eric's feedback about the recommendations that he's made towards your concept, and you're going to have to apply those to your concept. Does that make sense to everybody? For example, if he brought up regarding your kitchen layout, if Chef Eric said, you know, that hand sink would make a lot more sense if it was over here, you have to think that through and you have to understand why Chef Eric was saying that. And then you're going to have to make all of those changes to make your restaurant space a lot more efficient. So we need to see about 3 different reasons, 3 different justifications as to how you can make your restaurant more effective. Did I get that right there, Chef Eric?
Yeah, it's you know, give that explanation pertaining to why you think that would be a better move for, say, that hand sink to be next to your fryer. Well, not necessarily. Maybe you say you had your hand sink next to your fryer, right? And I maybe mentioned something to the fact that you might want to think about moving that, right? Because you got this hot fryer over here, you got a hand sink right next to it. You have some sort of water issue, and any of that water goes into that fryer. It's dangerous, right? So many different things that I have suggested over the last 5 weeks. So keep those in mind pertaining to especially that front and back of house layout, and you know, especially for efficiency. You know, I'm all about efficiency, just like Chef Weeks, right? Got to make sure you keep that kitchen running like a well-oiled machine.
Absolutely. And if you know, we just talked about what we've learned over the last 5 weeks in this class. So what you need to do with well, you need to be honest with yourself. Sit down, look, spend some time, go through your slides, say, hey, wait a sec. Now that I've learned this, should I move this piece of equipment, right? How can I reduce labor? Right? Chef Eric just reached on a very valuable point. If that equipment can be moved around, if that fryer can be moved around, if that hand sink can be moved around, can I reduce one labor position? If you're paying a cook $20,000 a year, right, and you're able to move some equipment around for $5,000, that's a $19,000 savings, or $15,000 savings. Sorry. So, I mean, that's a lot of money at the end of the day. That's going to go huge, right? If you don't take the time to do it now, instead of saving that $15,000 a year, you might have to pay another $20,000 a year to have an additional cook to compensate for your poor design. I've seen that, and it's not fun.
I've worked in kitchens that have that. to where that one guy just sits there in front of the oven and he cuts that roast beast all day. And I'm like, he's just standing there. What's his purpose? Like, nobody orders that, but maybe 20 of them in one night, and we go ahead and have like 200 covers.
Yeah.
Why is this guy just standing there opening and closing an oven and taking stuff out and setting it in the window? It's silliness, right?
Yeah.
So
I ran a hotel, a DoubleTree, for a number of years, and we baked 15,000 cookies per month at this hotel. We fed 3,400 people every 48 hours. It was a very high volume location. And what we discovered was the guy that was cooking the 15,000 cookies, he couldn't do anything else because everything else was so far away from him, other than stand there and watch cookies cook, right? So what we did is we went ahead and we got some additional tables, another 6-foot workstation, set it up around the ovens. So when the cookies came out, you know, he could just put them on the speed rack, but while he was waiting for the cookies to cook, he could pick up and help, you know, with some additional prep work, and it helped us reduce our labor cost. So we spent $200 on a stainless steel table, but then we reduced our labor cost by sending people home early because the guy was actually doing production. So that's just a small example of what could happen. Another part of this week's exercise is you need to imagine that your sales are 50% of what you anticipated. Okay? This is called an action plan, and it happens in a lot of restaurants. We hit seasonal lulls. We hit shoulder seasons. A shoulder season, for example, would be described as a time period such as the beginning of the school year, the time following the holidays, early January. Those are referred to as shoulder seasons when there's very little business in the restaurant industry because people are just burned out. So what changes would you make to your facility? You know, think about that. So if you usually have 3 servers on the dining room floor, would you consider readjusting your dining room layout in order to have only 2 servers to save a position, right? Would you consider rewriting your menu in order to limit the amount of mise en place that you have so you can only have 2 cooks instead of 3? Would you move the location of your smallwares so you would save time for people having to walk? Those are the types of things that we're looking to hear. You know, would you delete a hostess, right, and have a server cover the hostess position so you can reduce your labor costs a little bit? Is your dining room effectively laid out so that you can do that? Right? So it's kind of a reverse perspective. Am I set up so I can cover myself on these downtimes? Because it does happen in the restaurant industry. If you maintain your current expenses and your revenues dip, guess what's going to happen to your bottom line? It'll go bye-bye, right? So that's extremely critical. But on the flip side this week, we're looking to find out what happens if your sales double, right? What can you do? Yeah, Chef Eric's sitting there counting the money. Show me the money, man. We're calling him Papi Chulo, man. He's got the cash. But you know what? If you don't make some quick adjustments, that cash flow is going to dry up awfully quickly, and all of your other expenses are going to eat it up, right? You find that in the restaurant industry, people are not reactionary to the amount of revenues, okay? So for example, we're used to having X amount of employees, we're used to buying X amount of food, and whether our revenues go up or down, we keep doing the same thing. You can't do that. You have to fluctuate your variable expenses with your revenues. It's extremely, extremely important.
If I actually got a little quick story to talk about on that one is, so the last executive chef position I had before I started working for Escoffier, it was mainly a bakery, tea house kind of setup to where then during the busy season, he went ahead and had dinner service, okay? During the slow season, he eliminated dinner service. Why? Because people weren't coming in for dinner? You know, what's the purpose of being open, right? You know, you got so many other costs, not just your labor costs, but also all those other exterior costs, keeping your lights on, your gas, your place heated, right? So you got to think about all that stuff. The same thing goes vice versa. You know, if you're doubling your sales when it comes down to revenue, you might think about, well, maybe actually I might want to open up, you know, for a little longer period of time. Think about spreading out my customers a little bit more, giving them a little bit more opportunity to come in at different hours of operation, right? So that's one of those other things that can work both ways for you.
Yeah, those are great suggestions. Those are great ideas. And like Chef, I love this guy's attitude of opening for dinner during the high volume season, closing for dinner during the slow season. And that tells me he was adjusting his variable expenses and adjusting to his swing in revenue. So that's very, very important to remember how to do that. And then, you know, you need to put some honest thought when you're taking a look at your kitchen space. Hey, if my revenue's double, can I handle this? Is there space to add additional equipment? Hey, you know, maybe if I rewrite my menu, can it be a little bit different? All of these answers have to be at least a sentence long. Do not tell Chef Eric, you know, what happens if your revenue is double? Hire more people. Explain yourself a little bit, and make sure what you're trying to do is you're trying to justify your decision to Chef Eric. It's kind of a Shark Tank type thing. Finally,
sell me your concept, right?
Yeah. Share it, man. And then finally, what do you see as being the biggest obstacle in executing your menu and within your current design? Put some thought into that, right? So, for example, if you know, you're doing a lot of fried chicken and you only have one fryer, is that going to work? Is that going to be an obstacle? Are you going to be able to execute it, right? We want to know about those types of things. Hey, if you have a heavy grill menu and you only have a 36-inch grill back there, you know, is it going to make it? Is it going to happen? So
same thing goes for saute, right, Chef?
Yeah, same thing.
You only got one guy working saute, but you have a heavy saute menu and you only have a 4-burner. What's going to happen? That guy's going to be like, peace out, I quit.
Yeah, if you have the little US range 4 burners, man, you're going to be in the doghouse quick. You know? So, you know, that can be really difficult. You need to this whole exercise in the industry. In industry, we work with something called SWOT, right? In all successful hotels and larger restaurants have what we call a SWAT team. And these are not people that run around with AKs and protect it and handcuffs and slam people down to the ground. That's not what that is. But a SWAT team is a group of vital people within your restaurant. It can include your chef, your general manager. I've always pulled line people, such as prep cooks and cooks and everything else, and waiters to be a part of our SWAT team. And what that is that is a team that gets together and examines your strengths, weaknesses, your opportunities, and your threats, right? Threats are not things you receive in the mail. Threats are not calls saying there's a bomb there. But threats are things like, hey, there's a downturn in the economy, right? Oh, hey, there's a restaurant that just opened up 2 blocks away. Or, hey, that large facility that has 15,000 employees just closed down, right? Or, hey, there's an outbreak of E. coli poisoning in the romaine lettuce. These are threats, and you as a manager in a restaurant need to have a team that's assembled to organize yourself against these threats. Do not be reactionary in the restaurant industry. You need to be proactive in the restaurant industry. It's very critical. This team, too, that you've assembled can also assess your opportunities. We talked about threats, opportunities. Hey, can we do more business out the back door? Can we do catering? Hey, I know Chef Eric was talking about a food truck. Maybe we could do something in association with Chef Eric and split our advertising cost. Hey, that'll help us during the slow times, won't it? Hey, you know, Chef Eric, he could also spread our name out there, right? Think of opportunities, weaknesses, something you really need to take an honest look at yourself.
Yeah, like some of you have talked before. Sorry, Chef. Some of you guys have mentioned the factor of having a catering company with the possibility of having a food truck with it, right? opportunity. So think about those types of scenarios to where you can go ahead and combine different types of ideas. If you have just a bakery, right, you could also then think about adding a food truck to your bakery, right? And then thinking about selling a different opportunity of goods in that food truck specifically still has your same name on it, right? But you have a brick and mortar bakery, and then you have a food truck that sells brunch items.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. And I think what Chef Eric is alluding to, and I think it's very, very intelligent, this industry requires creativity and unorthodox methods on occasion to survive, right? It's very, very critical. Something else that you really want to address in the restaurant industry over the last years, I've talked to a lot of people, hey, how's business? Oh, it sucks. It's horrible. Well, why is it horrible? What's going on? Oh, the economy. And then, they're doing that road construction. And then the cost of food. Yeah, blames everybody but themselves. You need
Excuses.
You need to sit down and address your weaknesses, right? You need to be honest and open and say, hey, maybe our food needs some help. Hey, maybe our beverages aren't as good. September 11th, I was the executive chef and director of food and beverage at a resort. And when that happened, our business went from 100 miles an hour to 0 miles an hour in a matter of hours. We lost everything. We had a choice. We could sit down and we could just hunker down, keep the lights off when it was slow, right? Keep the ovens turned down so we could save money. Or we could come up with creative solutions, right? To help spur our business and keep our business going until the economy recovered. The hospitality industry got it back on its feet. We came up with ideas. We started doing a Mango Fest, right? We brought in mariachis, and we had a fine dining restaurant, a 4-diamond restaurant on our property. We said, forget that. We kept it open, kept it alive, but then we bought a taco cart. We put it out there, right? We just got creative, and all of a sudden we've got our revenues back up right away. We had 2 choices, right? Turn the lights off or get creative, unorthodox, and move forward. So think about that. You also need, not from an egotistical standpoint, but to be very honest about your strengths. Hey, we do this awesome, man. We rock. We're good. Well, build upon your strengths. It's very, very important to do that.
Positivity feeds positivity. The more positive that you are, the more positive reaction you will get from everything else in the universe. Mm-hmm. It's a known fact, period. If you dwell on all the negative things that are happening to your establishment, it's only going to get worse. And then you're going to be buried in it. And then you're going to be like, all right, well, I guess I got to close doors and bite the bullet. And then all of a sudden you're in debt $500,000. And then what do you do? Right? Yeah. Like Chef was saying, you got to be creative, stay positive, boast yourself when you're boasted, boast yourself even when you're looking a little sorrow, right? Stay positive.
Yep. I mean, there's a lot of interesting things that happen in this restaurant. We do anything we can to keep ourselves alive. For example, my first restaurant we ran into, it's a long story. I had a partner that was embezzling some money, and we ran into some very serious tax troubles at the facility. And the IRS was about to seize our property. We had a couple of hours to spare. We got together with the attorneys. We came up with a plan, and the plan was we closed the business down at midnight, and we reopened as a new business at 12:01 a.m., and we survived, right? So we folded the old corporation at midnight, and then we started the restaurant under a different corporation at 12:01 the following day, and the IRS wasn't able to touch the new corporation. And we went ahead and we negotiated with the IRS. We got the tax debt paid off down the road, but that was a creative solution to come up. Otherwise, we would have lost the business. And we had it 7 years and made a good living off of it. So think outside the box. Going back to SWOT, it's one of the best things that you can do as a human being and as a business, you have to honestly assess what you're doing, how you're doing it, and what you can do to make it better. So always remember that. And then when it's talking about, your biggest obstacle this week in executing your menu and your current design, right? Honestly, ask yourself about your operational procedures. Hey, is my server a busser, a server, and a hostess? Or do I need 3 different positions, or can I combine that into one position? Can I make that happen, right? Are you going to be able to produce your product consistently? It's extremely critical. So many, and I know Chef Eric has seen this before, but we come up with the most amazing food. Beautiful. Should be an Architectural Digest. It just rocks my world, but then trying to make that same plate twice ain't gonna happen. Yeah. So you have to honestly assess, can you do it consistently? Yeah. And I think that covers our assignment this week. And that's what the class is about tonight. You still with us, Ebony? Yeah. You hang in there. So taking a look at the assignment, that's everything that I just talked about. For this week's assignment, imagine sales are down. Name 3 things. Imagine sales are double. Finally, what do you see as the biggest obstacle? Make sure that you answer everything in 1 sentence. It is very, very important. Do you have anything to add to that, Chef Eric?
No, not really. Just, think it through. Remember, it's all about justification here. And so make me believe you have a purpose with this, your reasoning, your rationale behind it. Justify your answer. If it means you go ahead and put more than 1 sentence, put more than 1 sentence. I'm not going to tell you to stop. I'm not expecting 2-3 pages for answer here by any means. This isn't like that 500-word minimum essay that you would have back in high school. None of that stuff.
Latasha's like, I got it. No problem, man. I got it. 500 words, I'll bang it out.
And that's not just the same sentence repeated over and over again, double spaced.
A whole lot of I's,
But the sooner you get those in, sooner you're going to get feedback, which then means you have another opportunity to resubmit by Sunday, right? I will not be taking a day off until my vacation starts. So I am going to work Saturday, but I will still be around. So submit. That's all I got to say. Go ahead, attack this tonight, attack this tomorrow, submit it as soon as you get it. And then I'll try and get to it as soon as I get it. Right?
Yeah. Don't come up with rash excuses. Come up with valid justifications as to your decisions. And so basically this entire assignment is just to go back and look at your previous 5 weeks of assignments, see what you can do better, see how you can double your business, see what you can do if your business falls in half, right? This is called a plan, a business plan. We prepare for these things in advance. We talked a few minutes ago, right? The success of the restaurant industry is not reactionary. We have to proact. And this whole exercise is about thinking these things through and getting them down before.
Remember, guys, so that little fun little thing down there with all the percentages, that's not just for me, okay? That's for you guys too. Right? Like Chef Weeks was saying, is that you always, now that we're grown adults and no longer in high school, just trying to wing it and make sure that we have everything covered. Make sure that you have everything covered here. Go ahead, double check it before you click that submit button. So that way you have that best opportunity for full points that first go round, rather than being like, oh, darn it, I forgot that one thing, right? So keep your opportunities alive by going ahead and getting everything done the first go round. So that way, if you need to make any improvements, they'll be short, sweet, and simple, rather than being like, uh-oh, I totally spaced that one question. And then you got to go back and reanalyze your entire situation when it comes down to it.
It's like realizing there's a spelling error on your menu after you just printed 500 copies.
Yeah, that's not fun either.
No. Attention to detail is critical. It's like reconciling your bank at the end of the night, realizing you're $100 short.
Yeah, I'm part of this group on Facebook. It's like Line Cooks Across America or something. And one of the guys on there posted a menu that he sent to his GM, and his GM ended up printing it out, but it said something about like it had some cuss words in the bottom. I can't believe you did this, SHIT or something like that. And I was just like, oh, and you just printed that. That's going to be fun.
And never take for granted what anybody tells you in the restaurant industry, because there's a lot of people in this industry that are full of you know what. I had a hostess, and I was the chef at this the hotel in Mesa, Arizona, and the hostess came around, and she was in one of the dining rooms, and she said, "What's the special tonight?" I said, "We're having this with fried polenta," and she was from the East Coast and kind of snippety, isn't it? And I said, "Hey, do you want me to write that down for you? You know how to do it?" "No, I know everything about polenta." So I went out later on that evening, noticed the special wasn't selling well, and I took a look at the chalkboard where the special was written. She had written down that we were serving fried placebo that night. And because she didn't understand what polenta was. And so she just kind of gave it to me, all right, that would be a good explanation. So follow through is very important in the restaurant industry. We must do that.
Ebony, what's your concern? Why are you so nervous?
I don't like tests. They make my nerves bad.
No.
It's like like she said, I can visualize stuff, but what's in my head don't come out on paper. It never does. I had to write it 3 or 4 times before it can click whatever's in my head come out correctly.
So Ebony, quick suggestion for you. Do you know those little binders? I don't have mine right off quick hand, but it's like almost like a Post-it note. Mm-hmm. Okay, so when you have a little thought, right? It's like a little small binder that fits in your pocket, mm-hmm. And you go ahead and be like, oh, well, this might be good, and then you write it out, and then just keep it shorthanded, written out, right? Put it back in your pocket with your pen. Go about your rest of your assignments or whatever that you might be doing, and then be like, wait, I got another idea for that answer. Write it out, right? And then come back to it. And then when you're ready to actually apply that to your actual assignment, right, with that document that you create to answer those questions, or even just write it out on your assignment submission page there in your submission, you can just then be like, refer back to your little notes that you had and be like, okay, and then kind of start to formulate those different sentences and different ideas that you were having. So then you can then realize and justify what you were thinking about those different situations.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. That's a great suggestion. And then, on the bigger picture, if you want to become more proficient at writing, we learn to write by reading. And I have ADHD, and I cannot sit and read a book. That would just send me into overload. But what I do on a daily basis is I'll read a news article. I'll read a short 5-minute story. I'll read what somebody has written about something. And the more I read, the more proficient I become at writing. And it's a skill that it's just a skill that it takes us time to practice and learn. And the more you read, the better you're going to get at the writing. And I think once we get at this level of education, it's been a lot of years for a lot of us since we've been in school, so we're a little rusty in a couple areas, and that's okay. I mean, we all understand that. I get rusty too, but in order to shake the rust off, just start reading a little bit every day, and the more you write, the better you're going to get. Because you're a smart person, Ebony. I mean, that's obvious. But you're going to be just a little like riding a bike, That's what it's all about.
Thank you all for entrusting in me.
You got it. You got to entrust in yourself, though, is the first and foremost.
I believe I can get it. Yeah, I do believe that.
You've been able to turn.
Believe it, Ebony, we got this.
Yeah.
There you go, Natasha. I like that attitude.
Keep it moving.
Yeah, both of you guys were like, oh, Chef Eric. Oh, Chef Eric. I sat down with y'all and was like, okay. I didn't sit down with Latasha yet, though. I said that right.
Latasha.
Real close. It was real close.
Into course
I was
serving.
like, I'm like, but touch. Oh, but I mean, we spoke, right? Whether it was via text or a phone call or a Zoom session, right? And you guys have all turned yourselves around from that first initial nervousness that you had and have been putting in your makeup assignments to make that stuff up, right? You guys went from having that freaked out at 35%, like, why do I have this kind of thing, to all of a sudden now you're up there in the 80s and 90s, and you guys are like, all right, I'm falling now. You know, I'm good to go. So let's do this, right?
Your confidence levels are going to greatly increase, especially once you get into industry. The first time I became a sous chef, I could not sleep. I was so nervous, man. I was sweating bullets. And then I became an executive chef, and I was going to have a nervous breakdown. And then I became a director of food and beverage, and I'm in charge of all these restaurants. I had 175 employees, and I'm working in foreign countries, and I'm opening restaurants that I own, and all of a sudden it's like riding a bike. You can do it. Yeah, you just the biggest mistake that people make is a lot of people like to sit back and think about doing it, right? You can't think yourself across the cutting board no matter how hard you try. The only thing that's going to make a difference in your life is when you start to do it. And if you fall and you fail, congratulations, because you just learned how to do it better, right? And that's the hard, you know, they say, the old school chefs say the best way to learn not to cut yourself is to cut yourself. The best way to learn not to fall off a bike is to fall off a bike, right? So when you guys submit an assignment that's not quite right, or if you make a mistake, you just learn how to do it better. So congratulations. You know. So I want to thank everybody for this awesome 6 weeks. Thank you, Chef Eric. You were tremendous. And thank you, everybody, for all of your hard work. And if nobody has any more questions, we are done. Hey, oh, by the way, Chef Eric, when are the assignments due?
Oh, wait, hold on. We didn't talk about that?
No, we haven't mentioned it yet.
Oh, Sunday.
It might be Sunday.
Yeah. It might be Sunday.
Sunday, December.
Got it. Yeah, like Sunday.
I like it. The cold's getting to Roberta, I think. Yeah. Sunday, December the 16th by 11:59 p.m. Central Standard Time. Make sure all of your assignments are submitted, including any makeup assignments that you might have to deal with. If you have any questions between now and then, please feel free to reach out and contact us. Call or text me. Call or text Chef Eric. We are here at your service to assist you. But ladies and gents,
don't forget that feedback.